Supporting your idea. So once you have kind of an outline idea placed out, you have your topic, this new finding in my field, and you have what are my main points. Well, how am I going to back this up? What kinds of things do I look for in my research and those types of things? We're going to talk about those today. Supporting material. Specifically, we're going to look at examples, statistics, and testimony. You don't have to list these out, right? These we're going to go through one by one. Examples, statistics, and testimony. If you had to put the word example in your own word, how would you define example? Without using the word.
A piece of.
A piece of.
Whatever you're talking about.
Whatever, okay. What is an example? It's tough to define, isn't it? So let me have an example. Okay? Example. Okay. Example. We go. A specific case. This is used to illustrate what you're trying to communicate, right? I'm trying to explain something to you, and the definition will not work, and I cannot describe it well enough, so what I'm going to do is give you an example. Here's maybe a case where this has taken place, where you've seen this before. It illustrates the point you're trying to get across, right? We all know what an example is. There are three different types of examples we're going to look at today. Three different types of examples today. We're going to look first at a brief example. A brief example, these are very simple concepts. A brief example is when you are speaking about a topic and in passing, you just reference something. You reference your example. So I'm talking to you about faulty accounting practices, and I say, it's kind of like in the case of Enron. You all are old enough to remember probably this case of Enron about probably 8 or more years ago now, but it seems like it was just the other day. But they had faulty accounting practices, some unethical practices that led to their downfall, right? So if we know that as an audience, I can just say, it's kind of like Enron, and I move on. That's a brief example. That's different from an extended example. If I were talking about the same topic, ethical accounting practices, and I would say it's kind of like the case of Enron, and if I knew that probably none of you knew about Enron, I would need to go into the explanation here. Right? Enron was this company. Here's what they did. Here are the effects of that unethical practice. That's a pretty simple concept. We have a brief example, just referencing it. And we have an extended example where you reference it and you explain the situation. That's an extended example. The third, though, is hypothetical. If something is hypothetical, what is it?
It's not true.
It's not true.
That happened, but it could.
Okay, that's real important. It hasn't happened, but it could. It's likely. It's actually possible that this could happen. This is a really important part of a hypothetical. You could say, well, let's say that maybe there was a company, we'll call it Enron, and maybe they had, let's say they start doing this, and they start having unethical practices, and then this could happen because of that. Now, if Enron had never happened, this would be a hypothetical. It's a case that could actually happen that has not happened yet. It's not meant to scare people. It's meant to say, this is legitimate. This could happen. But it must be legitimate. Why is that important? Why must it be something that could actually happen?
Because nobody wants to hear you talk about something that's not going to happen.
Okay? Right? If it's not likely, we don't want to hear it, but why else is that important? That it's actually
credibility.
You're exactly right. My credibility is on the line right here. My credibility is on the line. It's just a made-up story. However, if there's not validity to it, people think, oh, this guy's just blowing smoke, trying to make me believe something, and he's using this outlandish example that would not happen. So my credibility goes down. It's okay to make something up. It's a hypothetical. That's what you're doing. But make it something that could actually happen. Your credibility will go up. So 3 types of example. This is a simple concept. We're going to look next at using statistics. So first of all, you can use examples to come back in once you've made a point in your speech, to come back in and use an example to back that up. The second way to back up what you're saying through supporting material is through statistics. Now don't think, oh no, math. It's the simple ideas of statistics, how to explain what you're saying with numbers. We talked the other day about using statistics in public speaking and how we don't want to use a lot of them, right? Use very few, maybe 1 or 2, at least to get the audience's attention, but use those statistics and squeeze the life out of them, right? Make sure our audience knows what that means and what it means to you. You.
You know the old saying about 68% of statistics are made up on the spot?
I like that one right there. Okay, 3 different ways to display numbers using statistics. What do these terms mean? What does a mean? Average. Okay, good. An average. You find an average by doing what?
Add and then divide by 2.
Adding up and then dividing by the number of numbers.
Oh yeah.
Okay. What is a median?
Numbers in line in
Good. A middle number. So if I wanted to show you something on a scale, something on a scale from 0 to 100, 0 to 100, what is the median? 50, right. 50 is the midpoint. And that can be important. You show things that are below or above a midpoint. What is the mode?
the number that shows up.
Good job. Number that shows up the most. I doubt your brother knows that. Okay, mode. You're going to press him today. A mode. Number that shows up the most. So if I have a sequence of numbers here, not a sequence, I mean if I have a list of numbers, and it's just sporadic numbering here, number that shows up the most. And I can display those in charts and use that to explain it to my audience. If I think my audience does not know what mean, median, and mode refer to, then don't use those terms. Use average, number that shows up the most. Use those types of things, but still use these concepts. If you use these words in the right audience, your credibility goes up. But in the wrong audience, they just get confused. So keep that in mind. But you can use these. Let's say I wanted to show you. I've done a 50-year study. I'm not for 50 years, but I've looked back 50 years, and I want to know about how many promises a presidential candidate makes that he or she will not keep while president. That's a worthwhile study, isn't it? Wouldn't you like to know that? That's pretty high, don't you? Okay, so we're going to look at that. I will look over 50 years. So here I start 1961 and go to today. I don't know how many presidents we've had since, let's say we've had 6 or 7 maybe. I don't really know how many we've had since then, maybe more than that. But over that time, I want to look at all their campaign, all the promises they've made. And then when they're president, how many campaign promises were actually kept? And let's say over the years, this one kept 3 out of 10. This one kept, or let's say how many they didn't keep. Let's say that this one didn't keep 5 of their promises. This one didn't keep 6. This one didn't keep 10. This one didn't keep 1. This one didn't keep 5. This one didn't keep 4. This one didn't keep 5. This one didn't keep 8. What is my mode? Good, 5. You're exactly right. Now, what might that mean then? As I look to the future with this, because that's not just pointless research. What am I looking to project for the future as we look to re-elect or elect the president coming up? Yeah, there's a good chance. Research shows historically there's a trend. It could be 8 or 10 or 4. However, most likely there will be 5 promises he or she makes that when elected will not keep. The trick is knowing which ones, right? Okay, that's how you would use that, and that explains it to your audience, doesn't it? It breaks this down using numbers, statistics, using them to explain, to back up what you're trying to say. So we looked at examples, statistics. Let's look at the last way, using a testimony. When someone says the word testimony, a few different things come to mind, different images. What are some of the places we think of or things we see in our mind when we hear the word testimony? Okay, good, at church. What is a testimony at a church?
Professors.
Okay, somebody gets up to do what? Do a testimony, right? Thank you. But what does that testimony look like? What are they doing? I mean, you're right there confessing. They're telling their story, right? Good. What other place do we see testimony? Courtroom. What is that person doing?
Telling the person did.
Okay, telling their side of the story, right? Yeah, lying. Yeah. Telling their side of the story. There's another place we see testimony all the time. We may not know it's called that. You've probably seen it this morning. You'll see it this afternoon, most likely.
Advertising.
Exactly right. Advertising. Testimony. We've talked a little bit about this process of identification. You remember this process where you want your audience to realize that you are similar to them in some way. Why? So that they feel a connection to you. And maybe they like you a little bit. You build rapport with your audience. And so, if you're a little bit like your audience, they're more likely to believe you, right? Isn't it true that people who are more like you, you're more likely to believe them? More likely to do what they have to say. Again, think about your little subculture you have.